Welcome to another episode of the Performotion podcast. I'm joined by Danny and David. We're just fresh off the Queensland States Championships on the weekend. It's a Thursday afternoon, and we're here to recap that weekend of madness. So, obviously, Queensland State Champs, it wasn't divided up into all the age categories. So this episode is just going to focus on some highlights, some battles, some standout performances across the whole weekend, all age groups, all weight classes, sorry. And then looking forward to nationals, what we can kind of expect across some of the key battles. So let's kick it off. We can start off with the junior men's. Now, in the junior men's, there was actually some interesting battles across a few key weight classes. If we go the under 74 sub-junior class to start with, we had first place Hayden Brinkley totaling 575, and then a notable mention for Will Evans coming in at second place. Now, deadlift alien, 177.5 kilo squat, 110 bench, 280 deadlift as a 74 sub junior, and he missed 300 on a third attempt and came second there. That's a very, very big deadlift for a very young lightweight lad. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So yeah, I saw that. So do you mute real quick, Sam? Yeah, I saw that deadlift. So his 280 was sick. I don't know if there was an extra 20 keys, but with his like leverages and like I guess with his training style as well, like I guess sometimes it's hit or miss. But I guess the most notable thing with that entire battle, for me, was the fact that all he had to do was where's the totals? All he had to do was add 7.5 kilos to his deadlift. So if he just pulled 287, he would have came first and beat Brinkley. So that was an interesting move on their part. Maybe they didn't care about placings and they just wanted to full send and hit 300 on a stiff bar in competition because of the milestone. I'm not sure, but it was interesting to see the fact that they just, YOLO pulled the 300 because I believe he pulled 290 in training on a stiff bar. So maybe they were trusting in the taper to take him away and for him to pop off. But yeah, that was interesting, choosing to go for such a risky play to both lock up first and hit such a milestone when all he needed was 7 kilos to take out that first spot.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like he was just shooting for that 300. I mean, just really quick, if we look at like Kyle Novak, 66 junior from America, deadlifting like 300, 302. If we now look at like, 74 sub juniors nipping at the heels of that, yeah, it's pretty crazy to think in terms of how strong a sub junior is getting now. But if we flash forward, another battle in the 74 class, but in the junior division, was the most notable Jordan De Cruz versus Wei Jin Tan. Now we had a 482.5 kilo total going to Jordan, and then Irving totaling 480, so 2.5 less, and he had the bodyweight advantage there. How did that battle play out? I didn't quite see that one.
I was handling Jordan at that time, so pretty much by the final deadlifts, Wei Jin was ahead on his deadlift, so but he was also loading up lighter. So in terms of ordering, we were able to kind of see what he was able to load up. So hitting the 190, Jordan hit 200 on his second attempt, and he definitely had room to kind of lock things up. So just going off the mats, added an extra 7.5, pretty much chipping it, needing to chip it, but it was well within Jordan's mean to pretty much lock that up on his own. So shout outs to Jordan. Solid victory there. But at the same time, I think Wei Jin did kind of push it all the way to that second deadlift. Jordan did miss a squat earlier in the day, forcing him to kind of have to repeat to not lose any further kilos due to depth.
Yeah, sweet as. If we go through the 83s, little bit of a battle here. So we had Junji coming in at 680 first place, and then we had the deadlift demon Bill Bennett at 670 second place. So he missed his third squat and missed a 302.5 kilo deadlift to pull for the win. So seven out of 9. And then following that, there was a little bit of a gap for third, fourth, and fifth, being Andre at 6:30, Keiko at 6:15, and then Jake Phillips at 6:12.5. So I saw the end of that session there with Bill Bennett going for that big tug for first place. But if we look at, just Junji's performance, just kind of a good overall performance across the three lifts, it's 255 squat, 155 bench, and 270 deadlift. So going 8 from 9. So a good performance from him to wrap up that first place. If we go to the 93s, we had Anthony Kelly at 6:52.5, Jose Hernandez at 6:47.5. Now he was from South Australia, so he wasn't quite in contention for the podium, but was still in the mix on that day. And then we had Ray at 6:22.5 coming in at third place. For the 105s, now this is where it gets pretty interesting for some rising stars coming into the mix. We had Matt Foley, so he went to Junior Worlds this year in Romania. He had a really, really good performance coming in at first place with a 767.5 kilo total. Probably the most notable mentions would be that huge 325 kilo 6 red plate deadlift. So Matt Foley showing up at Queensland States following his short turnaround from Romania. Really, it was like 6-7 weeks, I believe, and he did really, really well. So definitely one to watch for the 105 kilo juniors, because he still has 1 to 2 years, I believe, in that age group. So keep an eye out for him and his terrible hair. Into 120, no 120s in the junior men's, but then the 120 plus, we had Big Nick Lancis, 665 kilo total. He pulled 245 to win on body weight. And then in second place, we had David Stowers at 665 as well, missing a 270 kilo deadlift. So just really quick, David, I know you're looking after Nick. What happened there, just for those large junior boys?
The big boys had an interesting day. Big David Stowers, he missed his opening squat because he wasn't in the warm-up room. So he jumped 30 keys and took like a 30-minute rest, smacked his second. Both of the boys went 1 from 3 on bench. They were getting some rough press calls from being big sinkers. So they were waiting for the bar to be completely motionless. So David took 150 for his opening bench, jumped 20 keys to 170, and then missed there. And that opened the door for us to put Nick into podium contention. So Nick took a 240 deadlift on his second. And then we realized that we were only 5 kilos behind David at that point. So we only loaded 245 to match his total and win on body weight. And then we were just banking on the fact that he missed his third deadlift at 270. And then if he missed, we would have just taken the win on body weight, because we knew we couldn't pull an extra 25 kilos to beat him on the actual deadlift pull. So that was how that one played out, was the big boys getting done for hitching. So we played safe and took the low option. And then David took a big jump, missed, and we ended up winning on body weight. So it was a pretty good turnout.
I think real quick, David definitely has a lot of potential in his numbers. Like the total that he hit is definitely not reflective of his strength, because of, like, I guess, logistical things, like technical things, missing the commands, as well as not playing the game, right? Because, like, I was kind of shadowing you, Dave, in terms of, like, kind of running the numbers between Nick and you guys, but it was like David was kind of just like loading whatever he thought he could hit. So he went to like 250, jumping up to 270 when all he needed to hit was like 255, right? So, like, the numbers that he's selecting, I guess, obviously maybe he was just looking to have a good day, but I think definitely leaving a lot of kilos in the tank for nationals, or when he starts progressing later on into his lifting career.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Sweet as. That covers up the junior men for the most part. So if we move on to Masters, I guess from here, across the Masters men in Queensland, there wasn't any particular big battles. There was kind of, I think we had about 1 flight of lifters, all kind of in their own weight classes and age divisions. I guess some special notable mentions. First off, I guess we'll go Laurie Abbott. So I remember Laurie just from competing with him at Iron Underground. He's just recently had pretty extensive knee surgery. So it was really awesome to see him back on the platform. If we look at another mention, Big Papa Butters, Simon Butterworth, the returning Commonwealth champion from last year. He went up against Peter Burns in a little battle in the Masters 3 105 kilo division. Peter being one of David's clients who shot up really well, came up with a big 517.5 kilo total. Some very impressive lifting for someone who's relatively quite new in the sport. So shout out Peter and Simon. And then, from there, quite a few other good performances. Ian Wood, one of my clients, went 9 and 9. 8 from 9, secured a 610 kilo total. It was really good to see Ian kind of push past that 600 kilo barrier and put together a nice day of lifting that reflected his training performance. And also Matthew Graham, another Perth motion lifter, quite new to the sport as well. It was his first state championships. He hit a huge 572.5 kilo total PR as well. So some pretty cool lifting there in the men's masters session in the afternoon. Just one flight, all the old fellas just ripping in, having a go. It was really good to see. And I say old fellas with the most respect. All right. From there, we go into the women's. So women's, let's kick off just quickly with the sub-junior and junior. I guess from these divisions here, there's probably two standout performances. So we have Naya Keep from Newcastle, sub-junior 69 kilo lifter. Quite fresh. She's got a very large bench press. So she ended up benching 100 kilos on her third attempt, I believe. Sorry, David, thank you, from Gold Coast, but trains under Hunter. Huge 100 kilo bench as a very young female powerlifter, which is really, really cool to see from her. And then there we have also in the junior women's division, we have Tiana, a rising 76 kilo athlete currently under Shania from Perth Motion. She put up a huge 60 kilo total PR from the last 3 months of competing in her last competition. And that was a 435 kilo total in the junior 76 kilo class, which again, talking about kind of rising stars, like someone like Matt, as well as Tiana, they've got quite a few years left in their age group, and hitting numbers like that is definitely one to watch out in the next few years as they move through the ranks in that junior division. Lads, anything to add from those two?
I've got a tiny bit to add. Stella as well. So another big bench presser for the junior women. Benched 105, pulled 200 as well. So big pull, big bench. She ages out this year. So next year she'll be in contention with all the other 84s. And her total, I believe, was actually pretty similar to what the open 84s put up. Slightly lower just because of squat, but I think she was right up in the mix with the open 84s. So she should give them a good run for their money next year when she does age out into the opens.
And next up in the Masters female category, we had a bunch of strong lifters across the day. There wasn't too many of them. I think we had about 12 lifters in total. Some notable mentions just for the Perth Motion lifters. We had Peter Day finally locking in a 70 kilo bench press on the platform. I know she was super stoked off her celebration to lock that one in on the day. It's been a big goal of hers, and it was awesome to see Peter knock off the 70 kilos, and I'm sure she'll be hunting down that elusive red plate next. As well, we had Alicia Price, another Perth lifter, Masters 2, 69. Her and Peter are currently training for the Asian Championships, only a few weeks away. So the totals were a little bit down on what they've kind of really been pushing for with the Asians. But Alicia also walking away with a 125, 75, and 145 for a 345 kilo total, which is a 71.68 good lift score. We also had Laura Raby, another Perth Motion lifter, 63 kilos, Masters 1, going 80, 52.5, and 107.5 for a 240 total.
She also came into this prep with, I think, only like anywhere between 2 and 4 weeks of training, because she was just over for Masters Worlds.
Supporting Big Jason.
Yeah, Big Jason Raby. So Mrs. Skanky was doing that, and then she had a bit of a break from training, I believe, while they were in Japan. So she came into this prep with not a lot under her belt, but I believe she was pretty happy with the results, given the amount of training she had done for the competition.
Yeah, just back up there and moving forward to the next one. Some other notable mentions from the Masters women. We had Bobby Joe Williamson, Bobby Joe, with a 72.78 good lift score, and that was through a 365 kilo total in the Masters 276. And then we also had Jane Gordon in Masters 163 kilo category with 127.5 kilos, 70 kilo bench, and 135 deadlift for a 332.5 kilo total and a 73.13 good lift score. So some good lifting there across the Masters females as we move into the Open women's. Now, covering off some first kind of key performances, we have Jordana Herber. So in the 52 kilo class, she totaled 363.5 kilos, which is currently just shipping Xin Yu, which is the Oz representative for Malta this year, whose best total is 363 kilos. So Jay Lifts has currently just dropped down from the 57 kilo class, made the decision to make the cut down to 52, and it seems like it paid off, and she had a very good performance. Dave, you just want to kind of chime in quickly for how her day unfolded?
Yeah, sure, I'll jump in on this. So coming down from 57s to 52 is obviously a fair cut. So there was a lot of uncertainty coming into the competition about how she would go. She hasn't been a 52 since I think 2019, back at PA Nationals, if my memory serves me correctly. But she did PA Nats as a 52, and she did one comp in 2020 as a 52, and then made the decision to move up and hasn't been back down since. So it's been a while since we've been down here. So I believe her and Steve made the decision to play relatively safe on the day. So squatting almost 10 kilos less than what she did in training on the platform with 136. Her bench tapered phenomenally, and she benched 75 like really, really well. And then the plan was also to play conservative on deadlift and just sort of hit something near training. But warm-ups felt really good. So we bumped her opener up 5 keys and started looking for that 363.5 to see if we could put her into that number one ranked spot in the 52s, just to sort of, make a statement and, get everyone ready and get everyone hyped for what is going to be a really good battle for the world spot come next year. So I'm really, really looking forward to the 52 class, because we've got Ainsley, we've got Zin, we've got Jay, and also Kaina as well. So there's 4 of them that are all going to be super close to looking for that sort of, 365 plus total by the time Nationals rolls around.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, for sure. Making the jump down pays off, right? Like there's always a bit of a risk there with like a big weight cut. But it seemed like she handled it very well. And like you said, to have some in the tank there, considering the weight cut and totaling what she did, is very exciting as we move into Nationals next year. So moving on from there, we can kind of go through the 63s and 69s. We had Kathleen Beggs well into first place with a 432.5 kilo total through 157.5 kilo squat, 70 kilo bench, and a very impressive 205 kilo deadlift. So Beggsy just currently nursing a bit of a shoulder injury. So bench is a little bit down, but she's on the way back up, and it was cool to see her finish off with that big 205 deadlift. Second place, we had Melanie Blackmore, 125, 80.5, and 145 kilo deadlift for a 350.5 kilo total. And then Jasmine Murphy, 122.5, 75, and 142.5 kilos for a 340 kilo total in third place. In the 69s, moving on from there, we had Hannah Altman, 452.5 kilo total with a 160 squat, 110 bench, and 182.5 kilo deadlift. Quite impressive GL score of 93.87. I know it wasn't the performance that she was looking for based on how training was going, but she's still definitely one to watch for in the 69s as we move through the Nats. Obviously with that, pretty high GL with leaving some on the platform based off training. Second place, we had Esperance coming in with a 395 kilo total through a 147 kilo squat, 90 kilo bench. Now she missed her first and second, and then 157.5 kilo deadlift. So a little bit there for Esperance, considering, leaving some kilos on the platform through her bench press. So hopefully can kind of sort that out as we move into nationals. I believe it was depth. No.
They didn't like the way she was holding the bar. So she's a big jab gripper. So she turns her hands in really far out and then only covers the rings with like just the tips of her fingers, basically. And they were calling her, saying she wasn't holding the bar in her hands because all her fingers weren't really covering the barbell because they're reaching towards the rings. So that happened on her first and second. Even though they tried to make changes, both got red lights. She didn't even really get to unrack the barbell because they just kept telling her to rack it, so she'd time out. So they went into the back room after and just practiced really quickly on what she was going to do with her grip. And she basically just like gripped the shit out of it and squeezed it, kept her hands straight, and just like muscled through 90 to finally get on the platform and, hit a successful bench attempt.
I mean, clutch. That it would have been stressful. I would not have liked to be Esperance there. So well done coming in and hitting that last one. And then, just making those tech changes moving forward. And then third place, we had Gabby Mars. I'm not sure of her total, but she hit 140, missing it for the first and second attempt, 82.5, and then a 170 kilo deadlift.
So she ended up 2.5 kilos just below Esperance, I believe. Yep. So in this case, all she needed was 175. So then that would have allowed her to kind of chip Esperance and come into that second spot. However, she did load it up a little bit extra. So I don't know whether it was the maths or the intention to kind of just hit a certain number. But she could have placed into second based on the maths.
Thank you, Danny. And then we go 76ers. So we had Shania Radke hitting a 165 kilo squat. Now, a bit of controversy here with her third attempt squat at 170.5, getting called for depth, which was for the state record. Then she had a 85 kilo bench and then a very impressive 202.5 kilo deadlift for a 452.5 kilo total. So from here, we had Leanne Jackson, another LJ, another perf coach. So 150, missing 157.5 kilos on her squat. Now there, the story is 157 was the PR attempt with her current competition best being 155. Given the nature of the competition, she decided just to kind of give 157 a whirl after 150, moved quite well. 112.5 kilo bench. And then we had 185 for her deadlift with a 447.5 kilo total, coming in second place. And then we had Kayla, third place, pulled into the win with a 137.5 kilo squat, 80 kilo bench, and then 152.5 kilo deadlift. So she jumped 10 kilos to pull for the win, chipping Sarah Rossi right at the end there. Now, I guess another mention through Queensland is Tab, who is also right in the mix here for this podium. So she competed at New South Wales States due to some holidays and trips, and her total would have slipped her into third place, actually totaled the same as LJ, so 447.5 kilos, but being third place on body weight. So that top three from Queensland in the 76ers, 5 kilo spread, very, very close. And if we group them up moving into nationals, that 76 kilo class is going to be stacked come nationals platform, which is really, really exciting. And moving forward to the 84 female open category in the women's, for the podium placings, we had Nicole Paulson in first place. She had a 167.5 kilo squat, a 87.5 kilo bench, and a 185 kilo deadlift for a 440 total and 83.41 good lift points. Nicole's just making the jump up to the 84 kilo category from 76. She's been very consistent in training from what I've seen, just with, doing sessions at the same time as her training sessions. She's been, very consistent over the last since, what qualifier did she do? I can't remember now. Since the start of the year anyway. Been really consistently training, making some really steady progress since making the weight class jump. killing it with squats, pulling some big deadlifts, and certainly one to watch out for in the 84 kilo class. Second place, we had Katie O'Connell. She had a 140 kilo squat, a 85 kilo bench, and 190 kilo deadlift for a 415 kilo total. Now, Katie's one of my athletes. She has been battling it through most of this year, coming back from a broken foot at the start of the year. And a lot more, yeah. Ton of injuries. Really proud of Katie for just making it to the platform. We really had no expectations, and for her, it was just about getting to states. And she did really, really well to walk away with a 99 performance and still a 415 total and a bench PR, which moved really, really fast. So
and a ticket to nationals.
So Katie's just gonna get healed up, sort out these little injuries and niggles, and then keep moving forward. And then third place, we had Stephanie Jameson with a 127.5 kilo squat, a 65 kilo bench, and a 142.5 kilo deadlift for a 335 kilo total in third place, wrapping up the 84 kilo open women's. And then probably the most notable performance, which, we really want to talk about, is Lucy. So 84 plus, huge performance. So she went 225 kilo squat, 127.5 kilo bench, and a bonkers 240 kilo deadlift for a 592.5 kilo total, which was 101.73 GL. Now, we'll get to it later on the episode, but that was actually for best lifter as well. So claiming best lifter as an 84 plus, very, very impressive. And if we just look at kind of her progression over the last, not even that long, since her last competition in Perth Cup, she's just really hitting some strides. And if we look at, how she sits against Nat Bubbs at Worlds, she's nipping at the heels, and there's a nice friendly kind of rivalry between those two girls in terms of their lifting. I believe Nat totaled 632.5 kilos at Worlds.
640.5 at Worlds in Malta this year.
Yeah.
Including the deadlift miss of 275.5.
Yeah, which would have given her another 7 kilos.
Yeah. That being said, though, this is Lucy's first ever states, right? So like she's barely just she hasn't even done a nationals yet, and she's already in that 100 plus GL territory, which is already very coveted. I don't know, like I've been competing for like 4 or 5 years. I'm still chasing 100 GL, right? And to come and hit it in your first states is bonkers.
Yeah, that's really sick that the 100 GL is obviously a really big milestone, but just the performance in general, I guess, big crowd, all the supporters there really handled the pressure well, especially, in the lead up with a little bit of hype of what she was going to be able to do. I think just especially her bench press too. Like I know she hit 130 in the gym quite a few times. She hit 127.5 kilos on the platform. I believe the national record is around that 130 mark or 120, 127. Either way, so her bench press for the weight class is very, very impressive. And if she keeps chipping away at that, even on the world stage, it's definitely up there. So shout out Lucy. Some very impressive lifting and some very good progress over the last year. And we're looking forward to seeing how she goes at nationals early next year. Anything to add, Danny and Dave, from the women's? I think covered it there across the age
not
classes.
really. I just wanted to chime in and say the record is 122.5 held by Nat Bubbs right now. So she's well and truly over that. So we'll see how much she breaks it at Nats. And that also gives her the chip, right? So that'll give her the option to use that if she needs it come time for nationals, if there is a battle.
That's right. Yeah. Thanks, Dave. I knew it was around that kind of 120 mark. Yeah. So very, very cool. Very exciting. Sweet. We'll start wrapping it up and we'll go through the open men's division. Quite a few more battles, some impressive performances across here, and then we can cover off the overall standings to wrap it up. Now, first off, there was no 59 kilo athletes. So if we go straight to 66, we had one lone soldier, Yuki Kashima. Now he went 225, 165, and 242.5 kilos for a 632.5 kilo total. Now, some notable mentions for his performance. He loaded up 252 for a third deadlift, which would have given him 100 GL, and unfortunately missed it. Now, again, the elusive 100 GL, we're all chasing it. So it was unfortunate for him to see him miss that, but I guess some key things for Yuki, kind of rolling through a bit of a self-coaching era at the moment for himself. He is planning to go to Asians, so I guess he wasn't going full steam ahead for this competition. But if we look at how he stacks up against the most recent New South Wales states, with Andrew totaling 631 kilos, which is only 1.5 kilos behind Yuki's states, and it's 5 kilos under his best total, which was last year at Nationals at 636. I'm sure Andrew and Yuki are going to have another round to battle it out come Nationals, with where they stand being very, very close to each other from those performances. If we move along, we go to the 74 kilo class. Now, shout out Stevie Day. He returned to the platform. He showed up. He showed us again what he is capable of, and he looked very, very strong. So a 282.5 kilo squat, 172.5 kilo bench, and a 295 kilo deadlift for a 750s total and 110.22 GL points. Now, we obviously know Steve more personally. We know what he's been going through in terms of the last year with the injuries and, the World's Prep. So it's really cool to see Stevie Day go up there and, again, just show us the high standard of strength and capability that he can lift at. And I'm sure, he definitely wants more out of that performance, but, using that performance as a platform, moving into the next year is really, really good for him to kind of push past the last year and what he's been battling through. And we go second place, Ethan Marr coming at 612.5. And then we had Braden Stamp with a 525 kilo total in third place. Moving along, we had in the under 83 kilo division, Ian Burns. Now, this is a really, really good performance from Ian. So he went 265, 160, and 295 kilo deadlift for a 720 total and the 100.4 GL. Second place, we had Matt Lung at 270, 160, and 267.5 for a 697.5 kilo total, missing 282 on his last deadlift, which would have given him an extra 15 on that total. Some notable mentions here for the 83 kilo division. So following on from the most recent New South Wales states, we had, of course, Ewan totaling 755, Kana totaling 735, and then Bren totaling 720, which is the same as Ian, although Bren was, 400 grams heavier. We were joking before the episode of whether or not that 720 total was tactical by Ian Burns. We're not quite sure, but if we look at like that podium placing and where Ian stacks up against a very stacked 83 kilo division in New South Wales, he's right up there. And again, internationals, those 83 kilo middleweight lifters are really performing at a really high standard and throwing around, 700 kilo plus totals with ease now. So that's really, really cool to see. Anything to add from the 83s?
Not really. Just that the class is strong. It's all stacked. Like, I think second place was like, or fourth place in New South Wales was like 702 or something, or 700. And then just below that was like Kelvin with like 695, which is basically what Matt Lung did. So it's completely stacked. Nationals is going to be ridiculous. And yeah, there's no room for error anymore. So if you miss, it's just done. Like, we've seen that now.
Yeah, sure. We go 93s. Now we had the Cowboy, Brody. Bit of a Cowboy prep. Just rolling through. He went 255, 175, and 292.5 kilos for a 722.5 kilo total. Second place, we had Fabian, 235, 175, and 295 for a 705 kilo total. And then the most notable mention here was that battle between second and third with him and Scott. Scott going 242.5, 180, and 280 for a 702.5 kilo total. So 2.5 behind second place. I guess the biggest mention here would be Scott moving up the weight class. looking very strong. He looked quite good up there, filling up that 93 kilos, and definitely one to look out for as he continues to grow as a 93. Next up, we have the 105s. So Tommy Chap, our lad Tom Chaplin, very impressive performance across overall. So 300, 202 and a half, and then 305 kilo deadlift for 807 and a half kilo total. He missed a third attempt deadlift of 320.5, which would have given him an 823 and a half kilo total at the end. Second place, we had Murdad, and then he went 295, 200, and 245 for 740. And then Chris Anastasio, the rehab guy, going 250, 177 and a half, and 305 deadlift for 732 and a half kilo total. So if we look at the 105s, probably what's really exciting here is the big battle between Tom, Rand, and Yanni that we're going to be seeing at Nationals. So Rand and Yanni totaling that 822 and a half kilo mark at the most recent New South Wales States. So Tommy Chap loaded up that 320.5, which would have given him 823 and a half. So a little bit of a statement there by Tommy. Unfortunately, as we said, he missed it. And for anyone there knows how close it was. For the listeners, he was fighting that bar at lockout for quite a long time, and it was ever so close to being locked out, which would have sealed up that 823 and a half. But unfortunately, it just wasn't there on the day. So nonetheless, a bit of a statement there by Tommy to tell Rand and Yanni that he's right there with him. So if we move forward to Nationals with that 105 kilo class, the top three all totaling 820 plus by the time Nationals rolls around, I'm sure there'll be some very important game day kind of coaching and handling going on with numbers crunching, especially given that they all have strengths and similarities across all three lifts. Anything to add there on the 105s, Danny and Dave?
No, other than that, it's going to be super competitive by the time it gets to Nationals, right? I mean, judging off that, I mean, Tom missed his, unfortunately, but it was super close. At the moment, I'm just thinking of like nominations and what everyone has in the tank. Like Yanni's got heaps of potential, just freshly moving up a weight class, and Michael Rand has that big deadlift, right? So it's gonna be anyone's game, pending on who gets stronger in these next couple months.
Yeah, it's very much just a scenario of the next few months, just putting in as much as you can into training to squeeze as much progress out, and then just letting the platform decide it.
All right, moving on into the 120 class, we have Sammy Butterworth here. So I'm going to cover this section because Sam not going to talk about himself.
Sam can be so nasty.
Really? Why not?
So we had the 120s here. We had Sam Butterworth in first place with a 305 squat, a 190 bench, and a 350 deadlift, totaling 845. So big day for Sammy, 98.37 GL. So narrowly missing the 100 GL mark. He's very, very close to that. 9 for 9 day for Sam. He's just come off his world's prep, which we've talked about in previous podcasts. A little bit tumultuous. There's a couple issues going on with injuries, things like that, starting with a new coach. So to come out and have a performance like this has been really, really good and really reassuring that Sam is stamping his mark as being the top dog to chase, with people, shooting for that 840 at New South Wales States like Tonga and Chris. So Chris Aslan totaled 800. Tonga ended up totaling 815 or something like that for New South Wales States. So all very close and trailing behind Sam here. But if Sam keeps doing what he's doing right now, it'll be quite hard to catch him, I think. Second and third place here. You go.
I was going to say it's crazy as well because like Sam's actually hitting total PRs right now pretty much across the board, right? So like he's going right now.
Yeah, he's on one. He's on one right now.
Keep going, boys. Keep going. Come on.
No, it's been good. It's like different style of training, right, under a new coach, and not knowing what to expect. And I think it's ended up the best way it possibly could have, right, with a really great PR performance, to basically just fuel the fact that, like, the Malta performance was definitely a one-off, and that's not going to happen again, moving forward, right? So we know that for sure.
Yeah, honestly, a big kind of part of it, or like training really came alight, in the last few weeks before that competition, largely just due to the programming, the programming differences starting to click. But honestly, like going down to New South Wales and watching Chris and watching Tonga and be able to see firsthand what they're capable of, that really helped ignite, some motivation for myself in the last few weeks of training. Because similar to Tom, I need to get stronger. I need to keep working because I know, Tonga missing that last deadlift. He's honestly good for it and he's looking really, really strong. There's more in his squat, there's more in his bench, and definitely more in his deadlift. And then Chris as well, with his training performances, unfortunately with the injury, I know that he's going to be right there with Tonga as well come nationals once he gets through that kind of recovery process. So yeah, for sure, it's really sick to have some competition now, being with Tonga and Chris and Big Flo and all these other 120s. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to kind of just keep training and moving forward to nationals.
So in second place, we had big Dave Yates, 9-for-9 day for Dad, his first one ever. So very, very stoked he was to finally have a 9-for-9 day and put up a total that he was proud of. So he went 265 on the squat, 172.5 on the bench, and he nailed a 300 pull on the platform, so a 737.5 kilo total. Narrowly behind him by 15 kilos, or just over that, 25 kilos, sorry, was Jordan Burns. He's one of my boys. He totaled 712.5 with a 260 squat, 185 bench, and a 267.5 deadlift. Couple rough calls here for Jordy, missing the squat command on his opening squat and then missing his final deadlift. So definitely left some kilos out there. So a little bit behind Dave here, but he'll be looking to close that gap as we head into nationals and start trying to chase these big boys like Sam mentioned, but with Chris, Tonga, and Big Flo here. Anything else you want to touch on in these 120s, Danny or Sam? Cool. You can take over again for the 120 pluses, big boy.
Easy. So for the 120 plus to wrap up this episode, we had Tyson Rapana making another return to the platform, doing what he does with those very large jumps, and for the most part, making it look pretty impressive. So he went 305, 145, and 350 for an 800 kilo total, missing 370 on his last deadlift. So yeah, some interesting load choices. I just think it's the way he goes. He just takes big jumps on the platform. I think he opened his squat at 230, then went 265, and then went 305. So he starts like at the front of the pack, and then all of a sudden he's at the end. So yeah, he came off with first place. In second place, we had Buddy Brendan Coombs going 300, 152.5, and 255 for a 707.5 kilo total. Now, shout out Buddy. He locked in that 300 kilo squat on the platform. I know just that's been a kind of big goal for his for quite a while, and it was really cool to see him knock over that 300 kilos. And then in third place, we had David Gamer going 230, 142.5 kilos, and 287 for 660 total. And that wraps up the kind of individual weight classes and age groups. So just to finish off, to kind of go through the overall standings, we have in the men's, now this is on GL points, we had Steve at that 110 point something. We had Ian Burns in second place at 100.4. Tom Chaplin in third place at 99.92. Yuki in fourth place at 98.6. And then I'm coming for you, Yuki. Sam Butterworth in fifth place at 98.37. Coming, Yuki. I'm coming for you. For the women's, we had Lucy at 101.73 in first place. Again, that huge performance from Lucy. Congratulations to her. In second place, we had Kathleen Beggs at 94.83. Third place, we had Hannah Altman at 93.87. Jordana, fourth place, 92.11. And then in fifth place, we had Leanne at 90.85. So that wraps up the Queensland recap episode for the state championships just gone. Thank you, Danny and David, for joining me. So again, some very impressive lifting across all age groups, across all weight classes. Some very exciting battles that we're now looking forward to into the new year with nationals coming up. And we're looking forward to seeing the progress that all these lifters can make in the next few months, and then get up there, get on the platform and show them New South Wales what's up, bit of state of origin. All right. Thank you for everyone for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Perf Motion podcast.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.